Except for the reason why they're all here. They all think it's possible they're infected with the coronavirus.
Even now, nobody can tell how long it takes people to get an infection, So we need to be very cautious.
To escape the outbreak, Carmen Guo put her parents and daughter on a flight from Beijing to Toronto. They were healthy, but once they arrived, out of an abundance of caution, they decided to go into a kind of self-imposed exile. Total isolation to avoid even the smallest chance of infecting others. That was more than 2 weeks ago. And to be clear, nobody asked them to do this. They just did.
This is a responsibility. So we are trying our best to keep the community safe.
Carmen also asked her son, Kingsley, to stay with friends. He was not to come into contact with the rest of the family arriving from Beijing. He agreed.
I saw that, it's big cities like Beijing shutting down. There was no one in the subways. And there was no one at the Tiananmen Square. And that's when I realized, wow, people in China are really taking this head on,
Taking it seriously.
Yeah.
And so that's why you wanted to.
Yeah. If they're doing that, then I should be doing something here on my end.
But that meant you couldn't live at home, you couldn't
No.
see your sister, your mom,
Couldn't
your
see anyone.
grandparents?
No.
Because they would all be in isolation.
Yeah.
Today, their self-quarantine is over. No one got sick, and they've since celebrated their good health with some much-needed fresh air. But ask the Canadian government, they would say none of this was necessary. Consider Beijing, where the Guo family was. It's 1,000 kilometers away from the epicenter of the outbreak. And to date, in that city of 21 million people, there are just 393 confirmed cases.
But the Canadian government had said, only if you've been to Wuhan or to Hubei province and you're coming to Canada, then yes, you should self-isolate. But there's no such advisory for people coming from Beijing.
We care about the neighborhood, we care about the community. No matter how the government's judgment is below or beyond, we need to make a decision based on our understanding.
And the thing is, the Guo family is far from being alone in feeling this way.
This is from Mississauga.
A quick scan of Chinese social media in this country shows there are hundreds of travelers and their family members willing to self-isolate. And what's more, there are hundreds more volunteers willing to bring food, supplies to those who stay home.
And all over the country, we have about 33 groups, cover 6 provinces and almost 33 cities. We're all just volunteers.
The kindness of strangers is no small thing, but there's also a complexity here.
Did you feel that there was a pressure on you?
A little bit. Yeah.
What do you think that people would have thought of you if you didn't isolate?
Yeah, I feared that they would say things or stay away from me just because my grandparents would come home. And that's, I guess, where most of the pressure came from. It's the fear of people isolating me.
And that is the precarious position the Chinese community finds itself in. That uncomfortable place where the good of the community requires personal sacrifice for a payoff that may or may not exist.
That's what as a Chinese people can do for the best, for the community. Okay, so we don't feel it's a sacrifice.
It was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Even though nothing really came out. My grandparents are still healthy, but still, it was better to be safe than sorry. I know that we're safe now, so that's great to know.
That's worth something.
Yeah.
Obviously, they are giving up something to self-quarantine, but they also very clearly feel they're getting a lot.
Yeah, of course, clearly. I mean, if you ask the Guo family, they'll tell you whatever the actual risk of contracting the coronavirus, that there's a very real benefit here to self-quarantine. And don't forget, these are people who remember SARS, right? How devastating that was. That is absolutely a factor in all of this thinking. So to take this kind of measure and to be seen to be taking this kind of measure means a lot.
All right, thank you. Up next on The National, we'll take you where we've never been able to take you before. Travel.